Seated to start, so find any seated position that you're comfortable with. So cross legs if that works for you. If kneeling is better for you, then you can kneel. Legs out in front as well if that's better for your knees or whatever. So just coming to seated, and then just take a moment to settle. So maybe you take the flesh away from the sit bones or wriggle around a little bit, make sure that you feel comfortable. And then just take a moment to let go of the weight of your pelvis. So start to feel that rooting down through the pelvis. But then from that rooting down, find a little bit of core engagement to lift your spine up. So you're starting to get a little bit taller up through the crown of the head. And then let the shoulders relax down away from your ears. Begin to soften your facial muscles. And it's just giving it a moment or two to arrive into your practice. So it's making that transition, isn't it, from thinking into just being. And one of the easiest ways for us to do that is to focus onto the breath. So just beginning to follow the inhales and the exhales. In and out through the nose. And to begin with, just noticing the quality of your breath. So quite often, we've had a long day and we arrive on our mat. And the breath can be a little bit shallow, can't it? It can be a little bit ragged even. Just observing it as it is. And give it a moment or two just to settle. As the breath begins to settle, you can start to think about drawing the inhales in for longer and then pressing the exhales out for longer. Let's try to keep your awareness within your body. So especially at the start of a practice, it's common, isn't it, for the mind to be a little bit erratic and to be wandering. Thoughts are coming in and out. And that's perfectly natural. But just try not to get too caught up in the thoughts. And if you find that happening, just always coming back to the breath in and out through the nose. Okay, from here we'll blink the eyes open and then find our first shape. So we're coming into butterfly, which we're all familiar with butterfly. And we call it a long-legged butterfly. So maybe take the feet a little bit further away than you're used to. So there's a couple of variations of this, isn't there? You can have the feet really close in, and we do that more in a yang practice where we have the feet close in. You can have them a little bit further away, which we might often do, but maybe take them a little bit further again than you usually do. And if, like me, you've got sort of knobbly knees and ankles, you might want to just support the ankles here. You can even take them up on a block. So if you're very familiar with this pose and you know how it feels, you can even raise the feet onto a block. But sometimes just having a little bit of padding below the ankles can make this feel a bit more comfortable. And then the hands could either take the ankles, the shins, the feet, inhaling to lift the chest, and then as you exhale, we just simply ease our way forward. And remember, and I know I've said all this before, but I do like to repeat myself, don't I? But the 3 principles of yin. And the first principle really is about just finding our first edge. So our first edge is where the body naturally comes to when you first come into the pose. So try not to push beyond that. Don't use any force. You find your first edge. And then maybe after 60 seconds or less, you feel that you can come deeper, and that's okay. So just being aware of that. And the second principle is really trying to find that stillness when you're there. So unless you have any really unpleasant sensations and you need to move, or you feel that you can come deeper, just try to find stillness. And you can always maybe take your elbows onto your shins and rest your head into your hands that way. If that's too much, you could use a block, and maybe elbows could come onto the block and you can take the head into the hands. Or maybe you use your block to rest the head onto. Depends where your first edge is. But then just begin to settle into your long-legged butterfly. And just keep following the breath as well, in and out through the nose. If you feel the sensations eased and you want to come a bit deeper, you can. Just ease your way a bit further forward. But remember, no force. Make sure that your jaw is relaxed. Where you feel the stretch, you're beginning to soften and relax. Around the base of the neck as well, relax. And the third principle of yin is just time, isn't it? It's paying attention to those first two principles and then just hanging out there for time. No matter how intense the sensation gets, as long as it's not that painful sensation, that biting or pinching. Use your exhales to let go of tension. So the breath is almost like waves, isn't it? Just use the waves to let go. Okay, just about another 2 or 3 breaths. And then just very gently pressing the floor away to come up. It's like you're rebuilding the spine. With your head landing over the tailbone at the top. And then you might well want to help the knees up from there. And then it feels nice to stretch the legs away. You could stretch the legs away. You might take the hands behind you, point and flex. You might pad the knees up and down. You might want to come into the windscreen wiper legs. So really, whatever movement here feels organic for you, it doesn't matter what it is. Just whatever we need to do for that little bit of rebound. And another nice option to do here if you want to. You can even take the hands behind you. You might even lift the hips a little bit and stretch that way. If you don't want to take the weight onto your hands and wrists, you can always do that on the elbows as well. So just any sort of organic movement here that you feel you need to take in your body. Okay, and then we'll come to our next pose, which is going to be dragonfly. So if you take the legs as wide as you comfortably can, now don't be worrying about how wide they come. And especially if you have had knee issues or you have back issues, you want to really think about how this pose feels is most important. You might want to sit up on your blanket. It can feel nicer just raising the level of the hips a little bit. You might even want to pad out behind the knees here. So in our yang practice, when we come into this Upavista Konasana, we're worrying about where the feet are pointing and what's happening. But in a yin, we're not really concerned about that. I want you to be comfortable. Make sure the knees feel comfortable. We're going to come into the twisted version of this, the revolved version of this. So turn yourself to face your left leg. As much as you can, you've got one hand either side of the leg. And then inhaling to lift the chest. And then as you exhale, any amount coming forward. And that might not be very far, especially if you do have hamstring and back issues. If it feels better, you can even take the hands beneath the knee. That might feel a little bit more accessible so that the knee's a bit softer. It might help with the hamstring issues. So you can do that if you want to. You can use your blanket. Or maybe you just come directly over the leg. And you can again use your block as well. So as you know, I'm an advocate of using things to rest your head. I think it really helps with the relaxation. So do whatever you need to. You could use your bolster, you can build a tower, you can use your hands. If it doesn't feel good in either knee, then do whatever you need to. You can bend them, pad them out. So we never want to feel sensation in the knee. So do whatever to avoid that. And then settle in, find your first edge. Maybe the edge softens and you come deeper, but maybe not. You can stay in this variation if you want to. If you wanted to make it more of a twisted version, then there's an option for that as well. You might even take your left elbow and rest it on the thigh, and you rest your head in your hand. You might take the right hand behind you and come into more of a side bend there as well. You might come deeper than that. The left forearm might come down. The right arm could come over. But you find what feels nice for you. That might feel too intense. It might not be what you want, the sensation you want tonight. Less intense variation of that is just have the right hand behind your back. So do that. If you try it and you don't like it, you can always just come back to the original position. So in that sort of more side bendy variation, there's a little bit of activity in the upper body, isn't there? But just make sure that the low half of the body is as relaxed as you can be. And then just about another 2 or 3 breaths. very gently coming up from there, pressing the floor away to ease your way up. And then you might want to take a little bit of movement between sides there as well. You might want to even bring the legs back together and do some windscreen wiper legs or whatever. So it's just that little bit of organic movement that feels right in your body. You might feel comfortable to go straight to the other side, so it's up to you. Okay, turning to yourself to face the right leg, we lift the chest on an inhale, and then exhale, just easing forward. And it might not be very far, it's quite challenging this, isn't it? So it doesn't matter, and find your support in whatever way you want to use it. You can rest your head, and then relax the shoulders. You might want to come into that more of a side bend variation, so feel free to do that. I'm just trying to find that stillness. And finding this stillness can be really challenging, can't it, in Indian practice? It depends what's happened in the day or what's going on. Sometimes it's really difficult to move into that. So if you get the urge to move or do something, an itch, or just see if you can breathe through it for the first time you get that urge. Maybe the second time as well. And then if you really feel you have to, by the third time, you do what you need to. But otherwise, stay with the breath. Use your exhales like waves to let go of tension. And then just about another 2 or 3 breaths. And then we just gently press the floor away to rebuild the spine up from there. Just come up really, really gently. And then again, what movement do you want to take here? Do you want to point and flex? Do you need to bring the feet back together? Do what if you feel that you need to. Okay, we've done both sides of this. So I'm now going to come right down the centre, which in many ways can feel more intense, can't it? So again, if it's been bent, you can do that. If it really bothers your back, maybe sit up on blocks or a blanket or something. You just want to make it so you're feeling a stretch, but we're not getting any of those horrible sensations that we want to avoid. So adjust it, do whatever. And then onto the fingertips in front of you, inhale to lift the chest. And then as you exhale, easing your way forward, using whatever you can to support yourself. So that might even just be elbows onto your block, mightn't it? And you can rest the head that way. Just make sure that you're not gripping anywhere that you don't need to. And even though I talk about it all the time and I practice all the time, if I really take my attention in and scan my body, I can always find little places where I'm gripping. So find the grips and let them go. And pick. And if you find yourself getting involved in a thought, it's becoming a story, your mind's wandering off, then just come back to your breath. Now, even if you can keep the mind clear for 3 breaths, okay, just about another 2 or 3 breaths. And then we'll press the floor away to just slowly rebuild the spine, come back upright. And then we'll bring the legs together, take the soles of the feet to the mat, take the hands behind you, and then windscreen wiper legs. If that feels like what you want to do the windscreen wiper legs. You might even want to do some of those little mini back bends as well. That might be too intense for you tonight, so do whatever. Just listening to your body and moving in whatever way you feel that you need to. Okay, and then after all of those forward bends, we'll come into a back bend, and you make this again as intense or not as you want to. So I'm going to go into Sphinx pose. You might want to use your cushions, bolster here, as you know that I love that. Other people don't though, so you do what feels nice. You could, in your yin Sphinx, and just come onto the elbows and then maybe take the elbows and be in sort of that variation. If it feels really intense for your low back, you can take the elbows further forward so that you're not coming up as high. You can adjust the feet and have them maybe a little bit wider apart as well. That can be a bit less intense for your low back, so adjust it if you need to. And then we've been supporting our head so far, so you might feel that you prefer to keep your head upright, but you might want to support it again. So you do whatever. So again, and I know I'm very repetitive, but we want some sensation here in the low back. We're stimulating the tissue. And a little bit of compression and a little bit of sensation is okay. But just be aware of how intense that is, and know your own body, and adjust it if you need to, come down lower if you need to. You can always make it more intense if you want more sensation in the low back. You might want to straight away make it more of a seal pose, so it's up to you. Another way that we can make it feel different as well as bending the knees, and you might want to try that. Just find a variation that you can find stillness. As your edges soften, you might come deeper, you might even make your seal pose more intense. I've seen people do this even where you've got your hands below the shoulders. That's really intense, but do what feels nice. It depends how your back is. What do you need tonight? Whatever you're doing, just make sure that you are relaxing. Low half of the body, let it go. Release your jaw. Relax your throat. And use the exhales like waves, letting go of all of those grips. You can start to notice as well, can't you, in a practice like this, where it is that you tend to hold your tension. Is it the shoulders, hips? Maybe it's your jaw. And when you think you've relaxed everything, just go back and relax more. If you have come higher into a seal pose, or you've come up a little bit higher, just pay attention to the sensation. Don't worry about the sort of shape or form. Just make sure that you feel comfortable in the shoulders. If your edges softened, you might come just a little bit higher for the last couple of breaths. And then we're just going to ease our way down onto our front. So if you have a bolster or cushion or pillow, you're just going to push it out of the way and come to your front. And you could make a little pillow with your hands there, rest one side of the face. It might even feel nice to bend one of the knees up so that you feel a little bit more supported. So you could do that if you want to, and then just completely relax. Notice the sensation that you have in your low back. Let it settle. Again, use the exhales just to relax you. Okay, when we're ready, we'll find our way towards a child's pose. So we'll come up to tabletop first. And you might, when you get to your tabletop, you might want to take a couple of cat-cows. So that's up to you. They don't need to be big cat-cows. We're not sort of muscularly warmed up, are we? So they might just be really small, gentle cat-cows. Just move in whatever way feels nice. The elbows can stay soft. You might prefer to sway a bit, whatever. And then we'll find our way to child's pose, but again, just slowly. So the toes come towards each other. You can make it more about the hips with the knees wider, or you can keep the knees a bit closer in. It's up to you. Hands reach forward, and then slowly the hips reach back towards the heels. So we're finding some length in the outer hips and the sides of the waist, and then hopefully the forehead comes down. You can always use a cushion or bolster here as well. If it feels really intense with the head coming all the way down, you can support it. You can use your hands. If it feels okay to take the arms back, take the arms back. And then let the shoulder heads roll forward. If you need to pad out that space between your bum and your heels, you can always do that as well. And then just come back to your breath. Relax your abdomen. Soften your low back. Make sure that you're not gripping your shoulders here, so totally let them go. And we'll just take about another 2 or 3 breaths. And then we'll very gently come back up to that tabletop position, all fours. Again, moving if you want to when you get there. So listening to your body. You might even want to tuck the toes and come up into a very soft downward facing dog as well. That feels like a nice thing to do. You can do that. You could stay on all fours. Okay, you're going to find dragon pose. I know how much some of us love this one, but hopefully it's starting to feel a little bit less intense. So you can either drop the knees to step the right foot forward, or we'll inhale and take the right leg up and then step it forward. And then dropping the left knee. We're going to take the left knee as far back as you comfortably can. And again, those of us with knobbly knees, like me, might want to use your blanket here. So I do tend to like to use a blanket under the knee. You could always use something under the shin as well. That might kind of work better for you. So support yourself if you need to. Make sure that that right ankle is below the right knee, and then we just take that right foot a little bit further over to the right and stay here if you want to. You can stay up here on the hands. If the floor feels really far away, you can use your blocks here to bring the floor closer. And just find that first edge. So you don't need to come in really deeply, really quickly, do you? Find the first edge. Maybe gently lean against the first edge. Those of us that are very flexible in the hips, just keep the back toes tucked so that there's a little bit of engagement. We're not just hanging out. Soften around the base of your neck. You can always use the bolster here as well, actually. I don't think I've shown you this one. You could, if you have your bolster and you like to use it. You can always pad out the front of that left thigh so that you've got a bit more support there. So you can always try that too if you want to. If your first edge has softened, you might come a little bit deeper. You might find coming down to the elbows is okay. Maybe it feels right to just come onto the outer edge of that right foot as well. And that's a wing dragging, I think we call that. And in the poses that we find more challenging, notice what happens in your mind. Do you tend to have the similar thought pattern? Is there a theme? Do you get frustrated? Are you writing emails? Before you get too drawn in to whatever it is, can you just come back to your inhales and exhales? Okay, for the last part of this pose, I'm going to give you the choice. You might want to stay where you are here, or you might want to come to the high flying dragon, which is where we come upright and bring the hands just to the top of the right knee and stay upright. And that it's very different. It can feel very, very different. So you might want to try the upright version. It might be too much. It might be a bit wobbly. You can stay down where you are if you want to. It changes a little bit where you feel this, doesn't it? I actually find the upright version much harder. Just try to maintain softness around the base of your neck. Jaw is relaxed. Throat is relaxed. Not gripping anywhere in the lower half of the body. Okay, just about another 2 or 3 breaths, whichever version we're in. And then just release, come down, come back to an all fours position. Maneuver your way. It might feel a bit creaky and stiff. And then you can either move around in your tabletop, you could do cat-cows, you can do whatever, or you might want to come to that nice soft downward facing dog again. So it doesn't really matter what you do for your rebound. Just do whatever feels like the right thing. So it might be a bit of downward facing dog, it might just be some cat-cows, whatever feels appropriate for you. And then we'll come to our low flying dragon to start on the other side. So you can drop the knees to step the left foot forward, or inhale the left leg up and then step it forward. And then the right knee is as far back as you can comfortably, and the left foot comes a bit further to the left. Pad out the knee or the shin or whatever. Those of us that are very flexible, you might keep the toes tucked on the back foot. The left knee is over the ankle, so it's okay to be a little bit behind it, but we don't really want it way beyond. And I know I say that all the time as well. Just come to your first edge to begin with. If the floor feels too far away here, you could use your block as well. If you really like the upright version, you might want to go straight to that. I'll let you decide. When you feel that your first edge has softened, then you might move in a bit deeper. You might want to use the bolster again for the front of the right thigh. Maybe it feels like a nice thing to let the left foot come onto the outer edge. Use your exhales to relax you. and then if you came to the upright version on the other side, you might just want to come for the last little while to the upright version. You might want to stay down, so it's up to you. The left hand might come to the top of the hands might come to the top of the left knee, and you come upright. For me, very different pose this. Sort of more intense in different places, isn't it? So if you don't like it, then stay with the low flying dragon. Just try to stay with the breath in and out through the nose. And then just about another 2 or 3 breaths wherever we are. And then just creaking your way back, very possibly to all fours. And then moving in whatever way you want it. So cat-cows or a little bit of soft downward facing dog maybe. So choosing your rebound and moving in whatever way you feel that you need to. Okay, from wherever we are, we will find our way to our back. So taking the shins to one side and then manoeuvring your way down onto your back. And then once we get down onto our back, we'll come straight into thread the needle. So if you flex the right foot and take the ankle over above the left knee, then you can find your version here with this. So hands can come behind the thigh or maybe around the shin. And then just gently bringing the legs in towards you there. And you can always, so if you find that it's quite far for you and your shoulders are up and you're tensing the upper body, you can always use a belt or something around the thigh or the shin here. Or you can leave the left foot down as well, and you can just gently press that right knee away. So you find, again, your version of this. Sometimes a little bit of a adjustment here, maybe to one side, you might find a sweet spot where you want to stay. So just find your variation. Relax the shoulders, release the jaw, and settle in. Maybe when your edge softens, you bring the legs closer. From here, we're going to find twisted roots. So if you let the left foot come down And then you cross the right leg over. Now, if you have a bad back, you might not want to have the legs crossed here. The other option is to use blocks so that you don't come too deeply into the twist. So this is quite nice. You can keep the legs crossed, but you can use your block or cushion or bolster just to stop the knees going too far over. So I'll leave it up to you. You could uncross if you want to. You can even tuck the right toes behind the left calf if you wanted to make this more intense. So I'll leave it up to you. And then maybe the hips pick up about 1 inch to the right, and then arms out to the side, inhale. And then as you exhale, let the knees just ease their way over to the left. Try to stay heavy in the back of the right shoulder. If you find that really lifts up, you can always pad out behind there as well. But you can always use the block just as a little bit of a stopper. So you're not coming too far and it's not too intense for the low back. So just adjust it where you need to. You might feel this more in the sort of low back. You might feel it at the IT band outside of your thigh, mightn't you? So just find a variation that you're comfortable with, support it if you need to, and then start to relax. And just try to be aware of when you start to get caught up in a thought process. And maybe see if you can take 3 or 4 breaths, keeping the mind completely clear, just being present with your breath. And then when you're ready on an inhale, we'll bring the legs carefully back up and uncross. Just re-centralize. And then whatever little movement you need to do there, you might want to gently bring the knees in. You might want to sway a little bit. You might want to do some little circles with the knees. So what feels nice? And then we'll find our reclined pigeon on the other side. So if you let the right foot come down, flex the left foot and then place the ankle over above the right knee. Stay with that variation or come into the deeper variation. I know we're all familiar with this. So always use a belt or something behind the thigh or shin if it helps you to be more relaxed in the upper body. And remember, those little adjustments can make a massive difference here. So you might just take a little bit of movement to find your sweet spot. And if we have sensation in the knee, ease off. So don't ever want sensation in our knee. Keeping this left foot a little bit flexed just can help to protect the knee a little bit. But if you're feeling it in your knee, just always ease off. And then come back to your breath. Release your jaw. Soften around the base of your neck. relax deeply behind your eyes as well. So deep into your brain. And then we'll start to think about finding our twisted roots. So just releasing that, the right foot comes down. You can cross the left leg over. Remember, if you're not sure about your back, then don't have the legs crossed, you can adjust it. You might make the twist deeper or more intense by tucking the toes as well behind the calf. The hips can come about an inch to the left, arms out to the side, and then inhale, exhale. Just let the legs come over to the right and use a block as a stopper. So if you're not sure about your back, just don't come really deeply into this. We want sensation in the twist, but we don't want a horrible, unpleasant sensation. So use the block as a stopper. Maybe you want to pad out behind that left shoulder as well. Find your variation. And ignore Jessie. Maybe if you feel your edges softened, you can adjust the height of your stopper block, maybe, or not. And then just about another 2 breaths. And then using an inhale to bring the legs back and across, re-centralize. And then anything you need to do there, you might bring the knees in, you might sway a little bit, you might do some gentle movement from side to side. And then we will find Savasana, our final pose. So those of us with sensitive backs, it can be really nice to support behind the knees, can't it? So you can either keep the knees bent if that feels nicer, and supporting behind the knees can feel really nice here too. So you can always use your bolster for that, or a rolled up blanket or whatever. And then find Savasana. So coming to lying on your back. And then arms out by your side. Palms facing up if you can, just so that you're nice and open across the chest. And then bringing your awareness back in. Just become aware of the weight of your body, relaxing into the support of your mat. Take your awareness right into your shoulder joints. Notice any sensation that you have there. And then let go completely of the shoulders. Take your awareness deep into your belly. And then soften from the inside out. And feel that relaxing sensation spreading through the whole of your pelvic region. Take your awareness to your hands and relax them from the inside out. Let go of the legs and relax the feet as well. And with each exhale, just letting go a little bit more. And then just very slowly begin to bring your awareness back to your breath. You might start to think about moving the fingers and toes and then gently move them. You could take a nice long inhale and have a stretch. Whatever stretch is calling to you, arms up above the head maybe, interlacing fingers, having a full body stretch. You might bend the knees, bring them into the chest, give yourself a hug, whatever. And just take your time as well, be gentle. And when you're ready, finding your way to whichever side feels appropriate. And then just easing your way back up. You can always stay as well if you wanted to. You can always stay down, can't you? So whatever. But if you're joining me coming back to upright, we'll bring the hands together in front of the heart. And just take a moment to relax the shoulders. Soften the facial muscles. Just try to be aware of the whole of your body. And any sensation that you have. Take a nice long full inhale through the nose. Cleansing breath out through the mouth. Namaste. Thank you, folks. Well done. Happy Wednesday.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Caroline.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Caroline.
bye.
We'll see you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.